Hello guys, welcome to Major's Garage. This is Suellio. I'm the crew chief for the Formula 1, Formula 3 and Formula 3.5, and today we're gonna see my lap here at Watkins Glen without the loop with the McLaren MP4-30. So let's go straight to the first corner. So pretty hard braking, as you can see. Initially I'm braking at 100% with my setup. My setup has medium brake pads, so you can basically brake 100%. I'm using as a reference the beginning of this change of color in the track, but that will be a little bit too late if you're starting to brake there. So as you can see, in my case, I am starting to brake slightly before, right here, and my maximum pressure is right there when I reach this change of color. So if you start braking at the change, that's gonna be too late, and you're probably gonna have some trouble during the corner. So be careful with that. And then really waiting for the car to stop just a little bit, but then already finding your way into the corner. I'm looking to hit only this first layer. If we see closely, if we look closely, you can see how the track actually goes down until the end of the first layer of the curb, and then it goes up very aggressively. So the Formula 1 would not accept this big change in elevation. So I would be as close as possible to this bottom part here right before it goes up. So as you can see, I actually missed it a little bit. I was close to it, but not super. I didn't optimize the line. And then as soon as we get here, as soon as we get to the apex, look how quickly I am actually applying the throttle here. So this is possible, especially with even with a powerful car like that. This is possible because the track is really banked. So as you can really see how the upper part of the corner is super high and the inside is super low. So there's a lot of banking here, and the car is really being compressed against the track. So you have the downforce, you have the actual mechanical grip, and you have the car being pressed to even increase even more the mechanical grip that the car has. So here you can actually be very aggressive on the throttle. A little bit after that though, you stop feeling that compression against the track, and you have a little bit less grip. So as you can see, I'm punching the throttle to 100, but then a little bit after, you can see how I'm already starting to manage the stress on the rear tires by lifting a little bit. So we have to be careful with that. We want to punch the throttle, but we need to be aware of how the car is behaving, especially after the apex when the compression is over. So as you can see, I'm lifting, and then when I get more confidence, I go back to 100%. So you can see how progressive I am going back to 100. A second little thing here to notice is that when you fall off the curb here, you can definitely use this outside part, but not too much, because you have to come back, and this car is a little bit too quick. If you go too much on the outside, you're gonna have a little bit of trouble coming back without getting off track on the grass there. When you fall off the curb here, you can see how the elevation changes a little bit. I mean, the banking changes. So this is a little bit off camber, and as soon as you fall off the curb, the car loses a little bit of grip, and on full power, if you keep churning like that, you may end up losing the rear. So what I do to prevent that, look at my steering wheel. I'm turning the car, a little bit of counter steering, but then here, look at how I'm actually turning slightly more than normal to the left, and even straightening out the wheel a little bit, because I know that there's a little bit less grip here on the rears when the car falls off the curb to the left, and you may end up spinning. So that's why I'm actually correcting a little bit, like preventing the car from losing too much grip. And then when it falls again, I am starting to bring it back again. Just being careful not to use this crest here, because you may get on off track. Then we can just be flat out gentle here, nothing to worry about. Flat out, flat out, flat out, flat out. And then we get to this corner. So what I think about here is to really use a lot of the left edge of the track before turning. So you can see I'm actually bringing my car slightly to the left, and I'm trying to be parallel to that white line, almost even touching this little grass here, but I'm not necessarily touching it. But you can see how I'm really over the white line when I'm turning. I could even be a little bit more, just a little bit more, but for the sake of safety, I wasn't super close. Then a little bit of braking, say 40%. For a car where you can brake on 100%, 40 is not a lot. So just like I would say low to medium brakes, but then immediately as you turn in, you already release and you're just loading up the fronts, loading the fronts, and then getting back on the throttle when you feel that the car is gonna have enough rotation with the throttle to get to this point without getting on off track here. Here you will get on off track if you put the middle of the car to the left of this white line. So as you can see, I was pretty close to getting on off track, but I did not get on off track. And also about the where to get back on the throttle, I would look at this access road here. This is a great reference, so you can always check how far into the corner you are, since the exit is a little bit blind at this point. Then we go to this left-hander that is super fun to do with this car. I'm really trying to be as parallel as possible to the white line before I start braking. Braking quite hard, as you can see here. This one I was a little bit more aggressive and closer to the grass, a little bit dangerous. And then you don't want to brake for long. I brake not, I will say hard, but not super hard, around 75%. But then immediately I'm already thinking of releasing the brakes very gradually as I turn into the corner. This is a pretty long corner, so as you can see, I'm turning and waiting. I'm actually waiting for a long time with the brakes. As you can see, I'm never coasting. I'm always carrying a little bit of brakes, until I feel that I'm going to be able to rotate the car with the throttle and still do the corner. So with the throttle, you can see how aggressive I am being here. And then the car has a very good rotation here. And then for this next corner, I'm using the 100 as a reference, but you can see I'm definitely braking earlier than that. You can actually see that my initial braking is at the 200, but I'm really looking at the 100 and trying to brake as hard as late as possible. And my maximum pressure, you can see that this is at the 200, or at the 100, a little bit, yeah, maybe 2 cars before the 100. So the initial braking can be something in between the 200 and the 100. To be honest, I think a safe reference here would be 150, since this car is a little bit too quick. I am looking to the 100, but I just realized that I ended up braking a little bit before the 100. Not so close to it, but I'm still using it as a reference. So yeah, 150. And then waiting a little bit on a straight line for the car to stop, but yeah, as you can see, it's just a little bit, almost nothing. And then you already want to be thinking about having this turn in. So about the line here, I'm basically using this inside line of the concrete. I'm using it as a reference because it's going to, after some time, take me to what is the apex of the corner. So as you can see, I'm still trying to follow this line on the inside. I end up missing a little bit. This is the actual apex, when the black line almost meets the yellow line here. So here I am really trying to use that as a reference. I really use that as a reference all the time. And whenever you're getting close to the apex, you can see how I'm already starting to rotate the car with the throttle. So I am getting back on the throttle slightly before the actual apex. And then again, I was always trying to be quite aggressive with the throttle so that the car rotates with the throttle, not only with the fronts. Because if you rotate too easily on the if you are too easy on the throttle, you're gonna cause a little bit of understeer, and that will force you to turn more the wheel to make the car turn, and that really hurts your front tires. So the front tires will wear a lot more if you are not being aggressive with the throttle and not helping the rotation of the car with the throttle, with the rear tires. Then for this one, I'm definitely using somewhat between 200 and 100, but it's closer to 200. So yeah, I would say 150 would be a good reference again, but you have to really brake quite hard here. As you can see, I'm braking basically 100% and then releasing as my speed decreases, still on a straight line. But then when I start churning, I really release much more the brakes. It's very easy to end up locking up the fronts here, so be careful. You have to really release the brakes well as you turn in. I want to be as close as possible to this curb without touching it, so in this lap I actually succeeded. You can see how I was basically completely over the yellow line without using that curb, which is a victory. I was almost touching it, but not necessarily touching it. And then as soon as you touch it, if you feel that the car has done a good rotation, you can again aggressively get on the throttle so that the car rotates well. And then we're going to have this. I even had a little bit of oversteer here, a little bit too aggressive. You can really see that at this point. Yeah, at this point I had no oversteer, but then I did that with the throttle. I increased from say 80% to 90%. And that was enough to be too much. I was already over the limit, and I had to. Here you can see me overcorrecting it, so I actually went back to say 70% just to correct the oversteer, and then I was getting again back to 100 as soon as possible. Because of the oversteer, I lost a little bit of grip there, and my car went a little bit wide. Again, I did not get enough track here, because you will get enough track if the middle of the car, we can always use the rain lights here, is on the grass, but it was still on the curb, so I did not get enough track. And then here we have a big mistake that I've done that cost me 2/10. So this lap could have been 18.3. I braked a little bit too late here, and because this corner is very tricky in terms of elevation change, it's basically a crest on the apex, and you really lose a lot of grip when you're falling over. When you're falling after that crest, the car gets very light and you lose mechanical grip. So I was a little bit too optimistic with my braking here. Even though I braked quite substantially, I carried too much speed, and I then tried to rotate a lot. I saw that the car was understeering, so I downshifted to one gear more to make the car rotate, and then it rotated a little bit too much, so I was basically drifting during the entire corner. And here basically what I was doing was correcting the direction of the car with a very gradual, very gentle throttle application to just give a little bit of weight back to the rear. So you can see I'm basically sliding for a long time, and then I ended up losing 2/10 here. So basically this is a difficult corner to find the braking zone. What I would say is be super close to this white line before you brake, and find a feeling when you're going to brake, not to not carry too much speed into this corner, because you will need a little bit less speed to make it because of the way of it's slightly off camber, I would say, and because of the elevation change. Then for this one, just a little bit of lifting. Yeah, you can see I lift to around 50-40%, and then as soon as I want more rotation, as soon as I can see that the car will actually be able to complete the corner with the rotation from the throttle, I get back on the throttle aggressively to 100 to cause that good rotation. And then I'm immediately bringing my car to the left here so I can prepare the last corner, and I want to be, you can see, very close to the grass so I can open up the most possible. This is always a little bit dangerous, so we have to be careful with that. My goal is to touch the yellow line here and then get back on the throttle at it. So as you can see, I'm actually getting back on the throttle quite early here. I mean, not early, it's just you cannot delay the throttle. You cannot lose that speed. You need to put the car at the yellow line and then punch the throttle quite aggressively, as you can see I'm doing here, and then the car will push itself to the outside. I could probably use a little bit more curb here, but it's not really necessary because you would have a little bit of a hard time coming back and maybe even getting an off track here. So this was a good line. And yeah, this is McLaren F1 at Watkins Classic Boot. I hope you guys have a great week, and yeah, bye bye.